dropping their ego, understanding, yes, you may be the top of your career path, whether you're a musician, athlete, a social media influencer. They understand they made it here, but they're still like everyone else. They're just as human, right? So they go back with the ego gone. They let that go, right? They're very humble.
I am super excited to have on the show a good friend of mine for years, probably close to a decade, even more. We have one of the primary hosts of Special Forces World's Toughest Test, none other than Navy SEAL Jovon P Quarles, also known as Q. Q, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, man. Doing real good. So good to see you again, brother. I mean, it's been a while. It's been some years, like you said. I think it has been over a decade, man. So here we are now, back again, man, back in action.
Yeah, man, I'm stoked. And so there's a lot that has happened since we were hanging out. We were hanging out multiple times a week there for a while. We were both on the Strand. I was doing instructor duty. You were another command right there in the SEAL team, the bubble. And we were just working together, seeing each other every week. And then we kind of drifted apart a little bit. But in that time, you got picked up and now you're one of the primary hosts for Special Forces World's Toughest Test. What's that like?
Man, I gotta say, man, it was a blessing. It came away. It came my way, honestly, in the way of they found me on Instagram. There
Oh,
was
cool.
it was one of those things where, I've always wanted to get in show business in some way when my career was over. And I think when I got out in 21, I started doing personal training and putting a lot of stuff out there as far as on Instagram. And then lo and behold, man, they came calling for me. And since I've been on the show, it's been awesome, bro. But the first time was definitely something new to catch on to and get and learn the whole entertainment industry. But it's been a blessing, bro. It's been a blessing.
I can kind of relate to where you're coming from a little bit. In 2021, I did a couple gigs in the entertainment industry, but I was doing like behind the scenes things. So I was operating as the set medic, security consultant, safety guy. So I did a few little gigs in that realm, and it was, like you said, really fun, really fulfilling. I really loved all the work that I got to do. But there is a little bit of a learning curve. It's a different world from what we lived and breathed for 20 plus years.
Yeah, right. Because when I met you, I was at the scout team. I was on my way out the door, and that was my last command that I chose to be at, so I can start doing things that can get me set up and transition into the civilian life. And I was already doing public speaking and all that stuff. So I did a few gigs, like running up and down to LA, and did a little thing here and there, but it was nothing really major. But it was fun, and it was made me hungry for more. So it was just super exciting, man. And I tell you, man, when they first reached out to me, I thought it was fake. I didn't believe it.
Okay.
That's a story, man. One of their casting leads or directors reached out to me on Instagram and asked me, "Hey, can we record you for interviews to possibly be on the show, Special Forces World's Toughest Test?" And I was like, "No, I don't know you, man. Don't hit me up again." And I was done, straight up.
That's hilarious.
Didn't believe it, man. Didn't believe it at all. Pushed them off. And they came back again, asking again, do this. And we went back and forth prior to it. Bro, we went back and forth like 3 or 4 different times of me like pushing them off, like, I don't believe this is fake and phony and all that stuff. So I give them grace. I give them grace because they could easily say this guy, Jovon Quarles, is being too much of a headache. Let's go over here and just try to find another person. But they they were persistent on me. And then we finally sat down, did a Zoom and talked. And then I did another Zoom, then an interview. And then they asked me, have I had any experience as an instructor? I told them yes. I was over there at helping running the SOAS program for the officers. When that was that. Yeah.
Cool. So yeah, that's the officers thing coming through, and they focus a lot on the military academy officers, or do they have like all the officers like in general?
Yeah. I mean, you get the military account, but you also get them from all kind of universities, man. We was getting them from Florida Gators, Florida State, Texas. I mean, we was getting officers everywhere. So they were sending them who they thought were their top candidates to go into the program because, they wasn't trying to let, just anybody just try out for it. So they thought it was going to be a top candidate who was going to get it. So they sent them to San Diego, as you know, and we give them like a 2-week, slam, bam, crush them. Then we evaluate them, and then we send them back to their schools with a yes or no. This person can come back for the real deal, or nah, this person is not what we're looking for as an officer. You know what I mean?
Yep, that's good stuff. That's good stuff. So you got kind of cold called out of the blue. Did you start with the very first season of Special Forces World Toughest Test, or did you come in and partway through what they were building?
No, I came in after season 1. They had another SEAL. They had a Remy. I think you know Remy, right?
That's what I thought. Yep. I thought that he was on there, and then all of a sudden there was a shift, but I was like, both of these are my buddies. I'm so happy. Cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. I reached out to Remy after I got the contract because I wanted to know what he went through, how was it from his standpoint and all that stuff. And he gave me some good pointers, and I kind of took those things and tried to make it all work for my personality on the show and just really bring out my true energy of it. And that's basically what he let me to understand. Just be you. Just understand it's you. It's just, just different because they got TVs, cameras all around you. But other than that, just be you. So I took that advice, and I've been on since season 2, and here we are now, season 4 coming out this week.
This week, that is
September 25th.
September 25th. Awesome. That's right around the corner. And I can't wait to get my popcorn and my whiskey. And I'm just going to be sitting there. I'll be watching Q on the big screen. I can't wait. So, what's it like? Tell me about some of the differences that you experience from working with SEALs operationally downrange, your students that you worked with through SOAS, like the officers, and now you're working with a bunch of celebrities, and your job is to really challenge them. Your job is to put them in these situations and make it real from them, just like we did in training. But what are some of the differences that you see working with celebrities versus, say, the military community?
Well, offhand, the mindset from the jump, and some people would probably think that's like a cliche statement to say it's just like what everyone says or something like that. The mindset is everything, but yeah, honestly, it's true. And you know this just like I did. The mindset of the recruits coming in from SOAS into the military, they have a mindset already of accepting that they're going to go through a certain level of, you can say trauma, you can say pain, you can say craziness, whatever you want to call it, extreme mental challenges. And they accept it. They're willing to accept it for the most part. And even for me, when I went in, and just like you, I'm sure when you went into Buzz and all that stuff, I mean, you just knew you was about to deal with this and this is coming. And you was really willing to accept it. And no matter what an instructor said to you, and no matter what, when they got in your face, and even when they're yelling at you, spit coming off their mouth, all in your face and your eyeball, hitting you everywhere, and you're just gonna sit there and just take it because you knew this is what I want. This is a dream. That's the difference. You get to these celebrities, they want a piece of what our world is like, what our community is, but they're still not completely engulfed into the system of military, right? There's some tension still. They still trying to be a civilian in our world while we're trying to train them. And this is a complete reality, right? Most people think the show is somewhat Hollywood or whatever, so the celebrities kind of get to relax and chill, and then maybe they cut here because it was a mistake and they reshot that. Completely one shot deal. We reality shoot this. There's no stopping. When we start from the opening scene, we don't stop filming until the 10th day, the end of the 10th day.
Wow.
So it's consistent, and you see a curve for these celebrities. You see a curve for some of them. They battle you in the beginning mentally because they ain't trying to really take it all in, even though they say they want it. And mentally, they're checked out. They think, oh, this is not supposed to be this way. They're going to be able to talk to their agents or go back to a hotel or relax a little bit here and there. And they don't understand that. We try to cram in what we all went through for a whole year into 10 days. So it's hell on earth for them. And then by the end of it, you see the growth. Even the ones that quit early. Even the ones that quit early. I mean, well, let's be honest. You and I both know the whole goal when they first start is to get to the end, right?
Yep.
And even though somebody quit on day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, you still see a curvature of them like, wow, they have a huge respect, more so than they ever had for us, for guys like us who've Marine Recon, SAS for the 2 Brits on our cats, SBS. So they really are involved and mentally ready to be like, wow, when they leave here, they're gonna go home a better person, better human to their family, their friends, and loved ones. So you see that and you feel good. You create a sense of mentorship in them. So I tell you that from that jump point on, That's the biggest thing you see, man. But you see some people who come from nothing as far as physical. They're just terrible. Can't run, can't lift, can't swim. They're weak as hell physically, but they won't give up. That's what you see too.
That's really cool. So, from what it sounds like, this has just been really helpful in a lot of ways. And one like side of the coin, you're able to introduce some parts of the military culture that, yeah, people know about. They know it's difficult. They know it's a lifetime thing, or it's like, hey, whenever you decide you're going to do this, it's not a 10-day thing. This is a long, grueling, multiple marathons back to back, and you're just doing it. And so they know, oh, yeah, boot camp's hard, or this is hard, but now you're taking these celebrities who've had a completely different life and you're introducing to them through a fire hose a lot of that military culture. And from what I'm understanding you saying is that's helping them appreciate it more, respect it more, but also on the other side of the coin, they're going away from it much better humans, much stronger, much more resilient. And they're taking these mentorship lessons that you've given them and they're able to apply that to their day-to-day life, to their family, to the rest of their career going forward.
100%, 100%. I mean, the number one thing I say they get out of this is dropping their ego, understanding, yes, you may be the top of your career path, whether you're a musician, athlete, a social media influencer. They understand they made it here, but they're still like everyone else. They're just as human, right? So they go back with the ego gone. They let that go, right? They're very humble. And the other thing about them, they get past that 40% rule of they thought they was only when they got tired or weak, mentally drained and all that stuff, they got to that point where they thought they was completely done. But there's only about 60% where they are. So they knew now that they can go to a whole nother level and push through that wall and get to the other 40 that they need to get to the next level of their life. Because a lot of them are really transitioning, just like you and I transitioned out of the military. Some of them are much older now and they're transitioning into a new path of their life. They're trying to find what's the next thing that's going to identify them, right? The next path for them to take, like you and I did. Some of them already started that process and they went into a little bit of a depression. So they needed to figure out who I am now without this thing, who I am now that I'm no longer acting after 20 plus years or no longer singing and traveling on tour for 20 plus years. Who am I now? And we've given them hope or an idea of how to find that person by peeling back some layers of themselves.
Man, that is really great. That's a great perspective that I wasn't seeing with some of that and how that dynamic can really go about. And you talked about identity and how easy it is for us to wrap ourselves up in our job. And if we're not going 100% and like the best at our job, that can create a lot of depression. That can create a lot of uncertainty. I know that in my life, I loved being a SEAL. That was my thing. Everything about it was my jam. And then whenever all of a sudden my health was kind of preventing me from doing that, I had to take that step back and I had to reanalyze and reorient myself to the whole life space. So you mentioned ego and identity. How does that play into like your philosophy on that, on ego, identity, and being successful in life or even transitioning after, say, maybe a setback?
Yeah, because we all come in with some version of ego when we get to the top level of something that we're doing, right? Even graduating buds, for me, as the honor graduate, I came into this. My first SEAL team is a little bit of ego, right? That I'm the man, okay? Even though I'm still not there, and I identify, of course, that I'm still going to be the new guy, just like a rookie on any team, starting from the bottom. But you still got some ego, right? I mean, if you don't have it, I mean, then you're not really one of those champions, I think, because you got to be hungry. And part of ego comes with that hunger, right? The hunger fight that I can do this. But for a lot of the cast that come on the show, the recruits, the celebrities, they're so used to people just worshiping them, the ground they walk on and all that, those things. So now the reverse is the role is switched, right? They got a different role now. Now they're not that person. Now there's no more makeup. There's no more glam. Now they answer to me and the other three hosts. And they gotta really take in whatever we're giving them. So you see that ego really take a chip, right? We're just chipping at it more and more as we're going through the course. And again, you see some struggle, we'll get some attitudes, we'll get some lips, all that stuff. And those are real emotions coming out of them. And you'll see, man, we'll be talking to them and interviewing them as we go when we bring them into what we call the mirror room, when we sit them at the desk and have these one-on-one conversations, because now we're trying to actually have a humanized conversation with them instead of it being instructor student. And you see them talk about, the struggle they've gone through, maybe some trauma they've had, the ego that they're battling, the anger they've been battling internally from something that happened years ago, but they're still dealing with it. And they're so appreciative of being here with us that we're helping them break that down to become more humble and see through themselves, right? Because we're putting you up against yourself. People think we're beating them for us to see who's the strongest person mentally and physically, but we're beating them in a way to find out, not to find out, but to let them find out how much further they can go and how much they can endure and keep moving forward, right? So it's a really good, significant thing to see some of these celebrities take these things on and, man, and just be humble and listen. And then when you see them after, they treat us like we're another singer, like we're another actor, we're another professional athlete. They treat us that way because they look at us in that manner now, that respect. They're not saying they didn't have it initially, but man, that respect for us has now gone through the roof. So you take that, man, and you're just very humble and thankful that you're part of that significant change for them.
That's really great. Yeah. So I can see a lot of kind of those threads whenever a professional meets a professional and then they finally realize, oh, okay, yeah, it might have been hard for me in my acting career. And yes, I had to go through a lot of rejection. I had to go through a lot of difficulties, all these things to get to where I was at in my pinnacle. And then you see a professional from another industry, whatever it is, you can respect all of those disciplines and the nuances and that journey, if you will, from what they went through. And you're like, oh my goodness, like, yeah, it was a different environment, but our journeys were very much the same.
Mm, directly. Even professional athletes, as good as they are at that level, the last time they probably had somebody really challenge them, a coach, is probably way back in high school. Because when they got to college, again, everyone's coddling to them. They're really good athletes there. They're not really being challenged anymore as much as they used to be. And then when you get to the NFL, then the same thing, or the NBA, then pretty much the same thing. You are the man. There's not much gut-wrenching, gut checks known to you anymore at that time. So, man, it's a beautiful thing because it's like you said, right? It's like a professional meets another professional, an alpha meets another alpha, a lion meets another lion, or a lioness meets another lioness. And now they got to come to an understanding like, wow, this person has really gone through something that I could not even imagine. We treat this show like we're on a deployment. They have no cell phones. We stripped that away. So they can't call home like we used to not be able to call home in the early days of deployments. I remember back in 2005, no, actually 2002, I think was my first deployment. And you don't get the chance to just call home like that. You know what I mean? You got to wait till you can go and get in line, go to the WR tent, wait for some time, and then you can call to the quarterdeck first on a base somewhere, and then have the quarterdeck call home for you. And it's just one of those things that people don't realize that when we was in the military early on, man, you didn't have those cell phones where you could just easily call home. And we take that from them. You got to use the restroom outside. We strip that warm shower from them. Now they got to pee and poop in a little hole in the floor. So we give them everything. It's a rude awakening, man. And it's a good thing, though. Like you say, when two alphas meet each other and both of us can just respect the other person's level of professionalism. But there always one person who's like, man, that guy or that woman has gone through something that I can never say I can even imagine or endure.
Yeah. And that's some really great stuff. I want to pull on that thread a little bit. You've worked with people from all different professions, from acting, from military, from athletes, the whole gambit, right? So would you say that each person is given a certain amount of grit and it's theirs to kind of develop, take with, and run with? Or do you think that there's only a select few that have that grit really inside of them?
Mm. After seeing these, and that's a really good question, I'm not going to lie to you, because actually I never had nobody ask me that one. And now that I think about it, really think about it. Grit is really, I think, individually based off of each individual person, what they really want in life, how much they're willing to go through. Some people just say they're willing to go through everything. If I go to Buzz, I'm about to die before they pull me out of this thing. But then you meet these celebrities, they're not in life-threatening situations to be on that level, And when you come to our course on the show, especially women, they've never been in. Some of these women are not the, Olympic swimmers and all that stuff. We've had Olympians on the show, gymnasts, professional athletes, soccer players, top of their game. But other ones who were just social media influencers like that, they've never really gone through anything physically challenging and mentally challenging all at the same time. So you see the grit of someone like that who you would have never thought had that level of grit in them really start to come out. Someone will impress you. Like I've been impressed every season on the show by 2 or 3 people because you look at them when they come on the show, mentally you can already look at them and say, I don't think they're going to have it in them. By day 2, 3, or 4, they're done. And then next thing you know, we're all 4 of the hosts, we're completely surprised. They may have started at the bottom, just kind of failing, falling low, dragging behind, complaining a lot about everything, how everything hurts, but they're never giving up, crying. They're just sad. They look like like a wet dog. But by the time we get to the last day, they're still there.
They're still there.
And the head honchos, the beast mode guys, the professional athletes who you think will be the sled dogs, they may have been the sled dog in a day or two. They may have really excelled at something right away, but that grit isn't completely all defined in them that they can't continue moving forward. And you see them ring out, like we say in Buzz. You see them just say, this I can't make it. I can't do this. So you see grit, man. Grit is really defined by each individual person. You put them in a situation, and then you'll find out if they can handle it based off the situation or not. But it definitely can't say it's trait that you're kind of just born with or anything like that, because I'm telling you, it's just each and every different person makes it. And I guess you think about Buzz, you'll see some people in Buzz that you and I probably can say in our class that you were surprised and shocked that this person made it through all of that hell. But definitely for these people that we're dealing with, the celebrities now, who technically are civilians.
Right. Yeah. That's really great to hear and to know that even people, one, will surprise you, that there is that huge internal thing that, I don't know, just kind of like put it to like a cultural trope or just like a cliche, if you will, but it's not the size of the dog in the fight, but the size of the fight in the dog. Like
Absolutely.
we've heard that, and you just never know. Somebody who doesn't have the background, who doesn't seem to be the strongest person, and then all of a sudden they're there on the last day at that ceremony where it's like, hey, you guys just went through the world's toughest test. So what lesson would you give somebody watching the show, just normal average day, whoever it might be that's watching the show? What lesson would you like for them to know that you want to give them so that they can apply what they're seeing on the screen to their life, whether that's a big challenge they're facing, whether it's work, school, relationships? What would you want them to know and how they can action what they're seeing?
For the audience, the person sitting at the house watching the show, I want them to just understand that you're not the only one. And as harsh as it may sound, some people may take that. I say that in a way of letting them understand that whatever you're going through, you're seeing people on this show go who have gone through probably the same thing you've gone through, if not worse, and they're moving through it. So that means you can also. So if you're stressed at home, if things isn't working out with the family, if things isn't working out with your job, your friends, co-workers, whatever it may be, and you just can't get life to operate and function in life the way that you want it to function or the way you want it to be because you had this vision of yourself at a certain time. You're not alone. That depression may come in, that depression may hit, but you're not alone, that you can go through this alone. You are in a place where you can go through this still. You can push through it all. You can push through the wall. You can get to that next level. There's always another level to you. If you peel back the layers of yourself and you really identify who you are, you'll be able to find the levels to your life, to your personality, to your character, to your energy, to your grit, to whatever it is you're determined to do. So you can win, but just turn it on and just go through the process. Sometimes it's a longer process for more than it is others, but the process will create something in you of growth that you'll become that man or woman that you're looking to be. So just know you're not alone. You can get through it. It can be done. That would be my message to anyone watching the show. And we're proving it to people by these celebrities who, a lot of them, have never been challenged the way we've been challenged. But they've all gone through their own hell in their life at some point. Some of them may have been born financially in a good situation, but even them, they still go through something: drinking, drugs, depression, violence. And you can see it. We've helped them curve that habit and become very successful with it. So if they can do it, you can do it too.
Yeah. So the humanized element, that I'm really glad that you put that in perspective, that what you're really doing on that show is you're showing everybody that it doesn't matter your background. It doesn't matter if you were raised in an abusive household. It doesn't matter if you were born into money. We all have a common thread of humanity, and we're all humans. We're all going through this life. We're all going to face struggles, but it's how you respond to those struggles that really is going to set you apart. And it's these people stepping up to that occasion and really letting themselves shine, even though they are celebrities, influencers. They're people that everyone's automatically looking up to because that's the way that they've been positioned in society. But just because they've been put there doesn't mean that you can't perform the same, doesn't mean that you can't achieve the same. You have the same body, the same mind. You've been given like at least a good starting point that you can go off of. And it's that how you respond to it, how you choose to grow. You use the word growth. And I think that that was very powerful. Is, yeah, maybe right now I don't have inside of me what it needs to be a Navy SEAL. But if I work on my body, if I sharpen my mind, if I go through this process and I commit to it, then I can grow into that person that I'm required to be a SEAL or to be a professional athlete.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. And that's what I want the audience to know from watching our show. You know, it's so much more to you than you think. You know, I always bring up the 40% rule. Whenever you think you're tapped out, you're only 60% there. You still got another 40% in you that can go further. So don't belittle your level of tolerance. There's more to you than you think. So that's what I've learned being on the show, because we truly are mentoring these people. We're putting them through the trenches of something they ain't never experienced before in their life, and they come out on top. Even the ones that leave early, they do. And a lot of them come out with another hunger to go to the next level. And you see their careers take off again. Denise Richards, she's just a perfect example. Since she's been off the show, career took off. Now she's doing some things with her daughters all over social media, some other things like that. JoJo Siwa, she's another girl, young lady who was on the show in season 2. Life taking off. Nick Viles, his podcast is just blowing up. Now he has a couple $1 million contract with Spotify. People's careers just go off the chain. So it's just next level now. So it just really gets people inspired.
That's so awesome. So you had mentioning some of those people made me think about some of your show. There was like this big breath holding challenge, right? Am I missing that? Would you mind walking me through that? What it was like, what it seemed like being on set, and just watching the people go through it and face that challenge?